All right, I think we're live. Push one in the chat if you can hear me. All right, thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 550, Black Geopolitics. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. There's a document in the description beneath the video for you to follow along with. If you want to engage in this discussion, there'll be a link in the chat for you to click on. When you click on the link, make sure you raise your hand so that one of us can acknowledge you to advance you to the panel. Maybe make a few adjustments and then we'll get started. All right, let me give a shout out to the people who showed up first in the chat. Terrence Forrest Jr., good evening to you. Isaac of Olympia, peace to you. Black Scorpion, peace. Rainy Woman, good evening to you as always. Dark Side 90, peace. Top Notch Rocker, peace to you. And Excalibur, salute. All right, let me drop the link in the chat. Then we'll get started.
All week, many of you have called and wanted to know if I was going to give a statement pertaining to George Floyd in Minneapolis. I struggled to give a statement, and every time I could not finish the statement without breaking down. I do hope that I can finish this statement before breaking down. We have all watched in horror the videos pertaining to George Floyd pinned down against the concrete with the knee of a Minneapolis police officer on his neck for over 9 minutes. The police officer did not let go. Even after the police officer had been told that George no longer had a pulse, he still kept his knee on George's neck for another 3 minutes. Clearly, he meant to kill him. As a mother, as a grandmother, I feel hopeless. I feel defeated. I am exhausted. I am tired. How many more children are we going to watch as they get murdered in broad daylight? How many more Black men and women are we going to watch as they get assassinated as I sit back and try to make sense out of all these senseless killings of Black men, I wonder, what crime have we, the Black race, committed against the white race? Why are some elements of the white race so hateful of Black people? Every time we hear another story of yet another Black man, Black woman being murdered, majority in the hands of those who are supposed to protect us, the policemen, who sits on another man's neck for over 9 minutes and strangle them to death and think nothing of it. I watched the video with policeman with hands in his pocket looking just as comfortable as he could be and thought nothing of it as he murdered George Floyd. What kind of a human being is that? What makes a human being regress to that level? You see, the devil is not a Black being that they tried to make us believe. Somebody who can behave in the manner in which that police officer behaved while murdering George Floyd. That's the personification of a devil. And we must call him for what he is. As I try to understand why is it that we Black people are the most disrespected race on earth, I couldn't help but find myself going back to the history. As Black people, we are not only disrespected in the Americas or anywhere else on earth, we are also even disrespected on the continent of Africa. And that history goes back to colonization and the settlers. While we apologize for having sold our children into slavery 400 years ago, and part of it, a lot of it had to do with our ignorance of what conditions our children were being subjected to as they were transported across the Atlantic. They were transported under some very difficult conditions, and even with all those difficult conditions, the Black race still rose. They made it to the Americas. They were subjected to some most of the most horrendous treatments on the plantations, and still they survived. From the lynchings, to the beatings, to the discrimination in the workforce, to the denial of economic opportunities, still the children of Africa in the Americas rose. Every possible way to eliminate the Black race has been attempted, and still the Black race rises. After everything else has failed, those bad elements within the white race have just now finally decided we will just murder them in broad daylight. And that's exactly what we're saying. But to those elements of the white race who do not believe Black people belong here, I have news for you. Black people belong in the Americas just like the rest of the white race belong in the Americas. Learn from the history. The Black race is indestructible. Black people belong in America just like the white people do. To those who choose to discriminate against Black people, I have news for you. Not only are you doing a disservice to your own children, grandchildren, and generations of white people to come, you're also doing a serious disservice to humanity in general. White little girls and Black little girls in the Americas or in Africa combined or anywhere else on earth for that matter, they deserve to enjoy their earth to the fullest extent, without any boundaries, without any hate, because this world belongs to them. So when you deny our children the freedom to love each other and live wherever they choose, when you deny our children, regardless of their skin color, the ability to be who they are and enjoy earth to its fullest extent, you are doing a serious disservice to humanity. Your wishes and desires to eliminate Black people from the face of the earth will not succeed. So just, the sooner you wake up and understand that the Black race is not going anywhere, the better off you're gonna be. And if you don't do it for yourself, do it for your children and your generations to come. Why? Because they deserve better. They deserve better. To those elements of the white race who believe in equality, who believe in the fact that this world is for us to be enjoyed, we thank you for standing up and joining those who were wanting to have their voices heard and saying enough is enough. Discrimination has no place, not only in the Americas, but on earth. To those people in the white race who believe that Black people belong here just like they do, we appreciate you joining us and sending a resounding message to the world, not only in the Americas, but around the globe, that this world belongs to all of us. And that everybody, every human being on earth has a right to be here. Let's join hands and send a resounding message to the racist elements of the white race, that bigotry, racism, and hate have no place, not only in the Americas, but in the world. And together, united as Black people, united as white people, we will join hands and we will defeat these bad elements within the white race, who believe in white supremacy, who believe in hate. To them I say, contrary to what we may have been taught, the devil is not Black. You, the racist elements within the white race, you are the personification of the devil incarnate. Repent, for your day of reckoning is coming.
Right. So, that being said, I think that was an excellent way to actually open up the live stream. I agree with all the sentiments from her. I think she hit the nail on the head. If anyone disagrees, you can feel free to come onto the panel and actually discuss that. And please hit the like button if you're not going to partake in the chat itself. Okay. Obviously, everybody knows what's going on. If you're not, you've been living under a rock. And I wanted to make sure we covered a few of these articles before we move on to the rest of the week, because we've been sitting kind of silent on a lot of things, and don't want to let any of these things go to waste. Our opinion matters in the manosphere. So let's go to the first item on the docket from Politico.com. It just doesn't seem right. Pentagon officials on edge over military leaders' dealings with Trump. For years, top military leadership has tried to minimize the perception that the armed forces are being used by the president for political purposes. I'm not going to read this whole thing. I'm just going to read a couple of paragraphs. The optics of the past 72 hours are putting people inside the halls of Pentagon on edge as images of U.S. troops on the streets of the nation's capital dominate airways across the globe, and as the top brass is increasingly viewed as mixing politics with military. Sorry, let me advance this person real quick. The Defense Department officials say they are increasingly uncomfortable with the more prominent role of the U.S. military is playing in tamping down violent protests breaking out all over the U.S. and the growing tendency of the president to call on troops for domestic missions ranging from border security to law enforcement. The decision to use active military forces and crowd control in the United States should only be made as a last resort, said Mickey Mulroy, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense under President Donald Trump. active Army and Marine Corps units are trained to fight our nation's enemies, not their fellow Americans. American cities are not battlefields. The anxiety hit a high point on Monday when the word leaked out that Defense Secretary Mark Esper referred to cities undergoing protests as battle space, and as Esper and Joint Chiefs Chair General Mark Milley walked with Trump across the street from the White House after protesters were cleared from Lafayette Square in advance of a staged photo op in front of St. John's Episcopal Church. For years, top military leadership has tried to minimize the perception that the armed forces are being used by the president for political purposes. Today, the nation is confronting the prospect of civil strife that rivals the racial unrest of the late 1960s in scale, even as civil military tensions reach levels not seen since the use of the National Guard units respond to anti-Vietnam protests at Kent State University. The Pentagon sought to limit the role of the active military in carrying out Trump's desire to use soldiers to police the US-Mexican border. It also successfully pushed back on Trump's request to hold a large-scale military parade on July 4th last year, instead of putting on a muted display of military hardware. So the president is trumpeting his powers as commander-in-chief as the nation confronts the dual crisis of civil unrest over racial injustice and a public health emergency. On Monday, he said he was putting Milley, the nation's top military officer, in charge of restoring order, and threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act of an 1807 law that gives him the authority to deploy federal troops to respond to domestic disorder. So I'm not going to read this whole thing, but yeah, the 1033 program that the United States enacted a couple of decades ago, gave law enforcement the access to heavy military hardware. Okay, that's why you see all these MRAPs everywhere and all the sophisticated tools like Black Hawk helicopters and Bluebird helicopters and things like that from Boeing and some of these other companies. They're making a killing off of the government selling all this hardware to law enforcement. But what's going on here is that the United States government may be facing a war on two fronts: trade war with China and a battle in their own streets. I don't know if they can really go into November doing this type of stuff.
Well, I just wanted to say this. You heard Rex Tillerson really come out against the president, and saying, because what they're trying to say is that they're trying to use foreigners. They're saying that Chinese and Russians are involved in this, so they can then scoot around the Constitution and run up, and then try to use strict military maneuvers on the public, saying that they are foreign adjutants that are involved in these groups. That's why he's calling out saying Russians and Chinese are involved with some of the looting, and that's why he's trying to use that as a method to skirt around this. And Rex Tillerson and these guys have recognized and said, "Dude, you're crazy. You're out of your mind. What are you doing?" So this doesn't, that's why they're trying to back down on this a little bit right now. But the president and these guys, they look bad on this move. They look bad. You can't suspend the Constitution over this because you don't like what's going on, and that's what these guys are essentially doing, and that's the problem and that's some of the big problems that we're looking at with using this, over militarizing and attacking basically the demonstrators who are not basically being violent or being disruptive, like you saw when they started walking up, by the White House yesterday. Very crazy. So there's some real, he's got some real problems here, and there's some big legal issues going on with this as of right now. There are a couple of channels, news channels that are off the beaten track, like Real News and others, who are covering this pretty well, I think.
Yeah, and see, and then the question becomes, because this isn't so much even about Floyd, but this is more about overthrowing the U.S. president through protests. They tried that in 2016 or 2017, and that didn't work out too well for them. Now, this is another opportunity to leverage the death of a Black man in order to promote their own agenda.
Yeah, there's no question about that, and that's what people have to look at. Is, I know, because I've heard some criticism coming from Dr. Umar Johnson. I believe he was out there kind of railing on this, and I think a few other people. I don't know if Tariq and them were involved, but I know I did see a quick vid where Umar was going out and say, hey, you know, don't trust these white folks. You know, they didn't really care about you. You know, they would have been out here, you know, talking about this a long time ago. They would have stopped us a while ago. Okay, I agree with some of that, for sure. But at the same time, you've got a lot of whites protesting overseas. You know, thousands in England and Germany, and Australia and all just all over. So I've been very interested to watch how the liberal media has not looked at the huge global effect that this has had. And what's stressing a lot of these guys out right now here in the United States is a lot of the non-black supporters that are really coming out. This is shocking them. They're disturbed by this, and the white people are coming out. We look horrible. Like I said, I've gotten calls from South America, people saying, "Hey, this looks really bad. What's going on over there?" And they're in the middle of a COVID crisis, but they're sitting there saying, "What the hell is going on up in there?" So we look horrible. A lot of white folks do not want to be associated with what's going down with with the far right wing and how these guys are just animals. They don't want to be associated with that, so they're trying to distance themselves from that for their own reasons. I think a lot of this COVID and stuff has kind of taken the cover off and showed you exactly what's going on, and small businesses getting shut down, everything else like that has gotten torn out, and the smaller middle American guy is taking it on the chin. And I think this is an opportunity for a lot of them to come out and let their true feelings be known. And I think this is a sociological event right now. This is a problem here in this country that this issue is encompassing a lot of other issues that are going on, that are coming to the forefront right now. And that's why you see so many white people coming out over this. And this is alarming. This is alarming to these guys. This is alarming to the president, alarming to their base and some others and the other puppet masters of this game right now, and plutarchs that are shocked at kind of what they're seeing, and they're saying, what does this really mean for us? And if these guys don't handle this thing properly, this is revolution. This has some revolutionary overtones. And this is what they're nervous about, and it's just not a black issue here. So anybody who's looking at this and saying, well, this is not really just about black people, man. They don't really love you like that. Yeah, you guys are right. There's an awful lot of truth to that. They are utilizing this to encompass other issues as well. They're not happy. They don't want to be seen as savages, murderous, bloodthirsty savages. Choking people out. Praying to their children and screaming out their dead mother's name. That's horrifying. That's the Medusa head. They're not down with this Medusa like that. They don't want to be associated with it. And the other factors that are coming out that were previously mentioned are real issues. And we're in an election year, and this is a problem. This is a problem for those sitting high up on the right. This is a problem for them.
Yeah, let me get to this next article real quick. This is from New York Times. How Trump's idea for a photo op led to havoc in a park. Let me read this paragraph real quick. After a weekend of protests that led all the way to his home front yard and forced him to briefly retreat to a bunker beneath the White House, President Trump arrived in the Oval Office on Monday, agitated over the television images, annoyed that anyone would think he was hiding and eager for action. He wanted to send the military into American cities, an idea that provoked a heated voices raised fight among his advisors. But by the end of the day, urged on by his daughter Ivanka Trump, he came up with a more personal way of demonstrating toughness. He would march across Lafayette Square to a church damaged by fire the night before. The only problem, a plan developed earlier in the day to expand the security perimeter around the White House had not been carried out. When Attorney General William Barr strode out the White House gates for a personal inspection early Monday evening, he discovered that protesters were still on the northern edge of the square. For the president to make it to St. John's Church, they would have to be cleared out. Mr. Barr gave the order to disperse them. What ensued was a burst of violence unlike any seen in the shadow of the White House in generations. As he prepared for his surprise march to the church, Mr. Trump first went before cameras in the Rose Garden to declare himself your president of law and order, but also an ally of all peaceful protesters, even as peaceful protesters just a block away and clergy members on the church patio were routed by smoke and flash grenades and some form of chemical spray deployed by shield-bearing riot officers and mounted police. So what's happening here is that these sort of words used about the president of law and order, we've heard that before, maybe in the 1960s. If I remember correctly, Nixon was an advocate of this term. Make sure nobody else is trying to come in. Yeah, and so this sort of violence, I mean, these are Mzungus, that term, Mzungus, putting up a fight at the White House. You imagine if these people were armed, that could be a bloody Sunday, man.
Yeah, the law and order piece was really a racial dog whistle to shut the niggas down, and that is exactly what this guy's going to go back to, almost a Southern strategy type of deal, and kind of the classic, kind of stuff that that's come out of the their playbook. So this is pretty classic stuff. And I had blogged it on another site outside of YouTube or whatever, whole other site I kind of deal with. But I had blogged that, and where it had a lot of white people on. I said that you're going to come up with a law and order piece. That's exactly what we're hearing. This is and that's exactly what Nixon ran on. And why did he run on that? Because this was in '68, and the DNC had lost control of their convention, and they had a police riot out there. And that's where you saw people out there. The whole world is watching. The whole world is watching. And they had a huge issue at their convention, where President Johnson decided that he wasn't going to run again, and they chose McCarthy, but then they came up with Humphrey, and all of that, just ran wild, ran amok. And Nixon then came in and ran on a law and order platform that got a lot of people. It resonated with them because of the rioting and because of what had happened in '68, all the madness that had gone on with the killings of MLK and of course of Bobby Kennedy, and the country was coming apart at the seams at that time, an extraordinarily dynamic time, of which we're kind of looking at somewhat right now, but at the same time, it was about the middle Americans saying, let's get this country back in order, and he was able to come through with a very close victory. And he was able to eke that one out and won. But he ran on a law and order platform. And that's what this man is going to attempt to do as well. Because, the civil rights movement was huge, as we know, in the 60s. And here it is. This is another kind of a civil rights type of an issue over police like that was back then. And he's going to run the same playbook. And he's going to try to get the same. He's going to try to get the same type of response from not only his base, but maybe some from outside of that. So it's a calculated strategy. It may work. I don't know, but this is absolutely and totally predictable that this is what they're going to run.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Mike, can I just wanted to jump in and ask you a real quick question. I don't want to deviate too much from the conversation, so you don't have to explain what it is. I just want to know what the name of this is. The last live you had, open chat, you were talking about how you were explaining why Blacks are discriminated against in the IT world, and you gave the name of some program or whatever they were doing. I think it was something with a T. You know what I'm talking about?
Europe is the program.
Oh, what is it called? Europe with a Y?
YEAR. So it's a 1-year program for minorities, more importantly, Black people, Black kids under 21, under the age of 21. And what the program does is it gives 6 months of schooling, and then for IT, and then 6 months of internship at these organizations that were actually discriminating. So it's a pathway into these organizations. So when people say that there's no discrimination against Blacks, that program is testament to this. The program's almost 20 years old. And so that's a part of this sort of diversity and inclusion that a lot of these organizations struggle with in this day and age. They still have this problem. See, platforms like Europe don't exist in a vacuum, man. There's a growing problem inside corporate America where they just discriminate against Black people openly, and they pretty much say, we can do whatever we want. But now that's not going to be the case anymore, right? And so I'm saying this platform exists for a reason.
Got you. Okay, thanks, brother.
Yeah, you can look it up on Google. There's one. There should be one in like Atlanta. Boston is the original headquarters, and then I think there's one in New York and in LA.
For sure, I'm gonna do that right now. Thank you.
All right. We also have Renaissance Man on the panel. What's going on, Renaissance?
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Chilling, bro. Chilling.
Yeah.
You're in DC, so.
Yeah. How is Boston? I saw it got pretty hyped a couple days ago.
Oh, it was hyped just a few minutes ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
No, I was watching the news, and they had this is a couple days ago. They had basically cops on bikes, and they're basically surrounded, like walking down the street. And you have protesters in front of them, behind them, like just pushing them back, walking down the street, throwing bottles and stuff at them. So, I was like, oh, that's up in Mike V's area, but
yeah, I got held. I was there. I wasn't there initially, but I followed them down to the Common when they were going, and they blocked up traffic for like an hour. So I had to reroute and go the opposite way. But I personally did not attend it because I know I'm familiar with that sort of process that of what they're doing. It's not going to really be up to my liking, so I didn't participate in it. No.
Okay. Now I haven't gone to one in DC. I might try to look at one this weekend, just because of the whole COVID outbreak still going on. But yeah, Trump's response though, I know Nagone was talking about he was trying to have that law and order response. So far, it's looking like it's failing with regard to. I know I was watching the news earlier today. They were talking about a helicopter that flew so low that it snapped some tree branches, and basically how that violated rules of aerospace. So they were trying to do an investigation to who gave them permission to do that. And then I believe the defense secretary came out, or head of DOD came out today and said, hey, I don't condone the use of American troops, against protesters. So far it's hurt them.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and they're trying to suspend the Constitution. Your Second Amendment rights and all that. They're trying to suspend it. And that you can't do it. You can't do that now. We certainly understand our rights, but the Mzungus understand that as well. So this is there's a lot of shit coming out of this, man. I don't know what this is going to look like coming down the road shortly, but this is a rough one. Like my old man said, for my dad used to say, for the puppet master here, this this might be a tough titty to suck on this one. This is going to be a tough one, man. Go ahead, Renaissance man. Go ahead, man.
No, I was just gonna add. They were saying on the news this is like the first time since Dr. King was assassinated that they've had that many curfews in place in cities across America. Which I know the one here in DC, they put one out, but it people just ignored it. But it was relatively peaceful last night. So, but it definitely people definitely went out there today and yesterday kind of give Trump the big FU for for trying to come with a strongman response and for tear gassing those people for that photo op. So.
Yeah.
His presence is instigating most of it. His defiance is what's instigating a lot of it. I don't know if he can sustain this going into November. This is not a good look for him. You got COVID, you got the failure to respond on that, and you got these protests going on. This is too much, man. I don't know if the Republicans drop the ball on this. It's curtains for them in November. Democrats really don't have to do anything at this point. All they have to do is just point the finger at him, and that's it.
Yeah, Steve King lost his primary last night.
He did,
Iowa.
didn't he?
Yep, he lost. That was one of the big things that came out in the news today. So
yeah.
He lost in his primary, and he's been one of the main ones. What's so offensive? When did white supremacy become offensive and stuff like that? So
yeah. I mean, the numbers. I mean, at this stage, also in the presidential election time, even though polls are not really that accurate right now, but when he was running against Hillary, he was, I think he was just pretty much in a dead heat, or he was supposed to be down 2 percentage points, but that's within the margin of error. So things were tightening up pretty closely then. And now he's about 7-8 points below, so he's looking a little worse. So it's not looking great for him. I think he's kind of coming apart a little bit. Mm-hmm. But yet one thing I did see, on his Twitter or whatever, he's got, what do they say? Something like 80 million followers or whatever. So he still has a lot of people following him. So to think that this is just going to, folks are just going to walk, it's going to be a walkover. They're just going to walk over him. I don't believe that will be the case, because I believe that there will be quite a few people that will come out for him. But I think if there is a large turnout, this will not go well for the president. But if there's not a large turnout, the president, I think, will retain. But I think if there's a large turnout, which I suspect that there might be, could be curtains for them. And what Mike said, as far as the Republican Party kind of being shot down from this, I would absolutely have to agree with that. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, McConnell's in a tight race too.
Yeah, McConnell may lose. But they've been talking about him, his ass being on the chopping block for about a year now. So they're looking to get him out of there, and he's in Kentucky. Am I correct?
He's in Alabama, right?
No, he's in Kentucky.
He's in Kentucky.
Yep.
And one of the things that I found a little bit disturbing was the white women that came out there about 4 deep in a line protecting the black protesters there. I said, shit, you got Becky out here in a phalanx protecting black folk? So this is a problem. So not so much that they love you, but they're trying to make a statement about what's going on in their state. This is a little bit alarming. So just looking at things like that, I think it's pretty close to high noon for this guy. So we'll have to see, but that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Let me read this caption real quick from the Washington Post. Trump administration offers active duty military forces and intelligence to help quell Minnesota unrest. So I'm not going to read this thing at all. We know that they sent Predator drones up to Minnesota, up to Minneapolis, and LA. And we know what the capabilities of those drones have. Facial recognition and so on and so forth. At least the latest drones have that capability. So they're picking people out in these protests. I don't know what they're going to do with it, but I got a strong feeling. My intuition is telling me that they're going to start creating a dossier for terrorist watch list, for Antifa. And then anybody can be.
Yeah. Very true, Mike. Very accurate.
Yeah, the funny thing with that though is it may backfire in the sense of you know, there still is no basis for this Trump Antifa claim. And a lot of people have been saying, hey, you know, there's some white supremacists that have infiltrated this stuff as well too. So
certainly. And they've been identified. Some of them have been identified as well. But the name of the game is to muddy up the waters and try to gin up his base by doing this. They're in office, they're in power right now, and this is what they're going to try to do to gin up their base, and say it's the left wing, and do that even though they know they got plenty of right wingers out there, doing a lot of froggy stuff to mess this thing up a lot. They know it, but they are in power. So they're the ones that are going to try to put it on the left. And not a lot of people are buying it, but some are. And this is some of the media fight you have to fight because these guys are in power right now. So they're going to try to claim that. Yeah. But there's no doubt that that many right wingers are out there and racists are out there as well.
They're showing up in opposition to the protesters, right? So
yeah,
I've seen several videos just today. You know, some of these far right, I don't know what you want to call them, Mazungas. They you know, step into black men, or step into the young black males, I should say. A lot of these black males that I'm seeing are under 21, but they're getting stolen and being assaulted by these Mazungas who they're walking around with helmets on their heads, and football helmets and hockey helmets and shit, man. These guys are showing up. So, you're talking about a civil war in an election season. This is bad for the Trump administration, very bad.
And this is why a lot of white people are coming out that are going against this, because it's not so much that they love you like that, because they don't. But there are other things that they have to protect, and they can't really afford to have civil war going on and then it being led by, these derelict Mazungas trying to run syndicate. They're not down with that. They're not down with that, man.
Yeah,
this is a bad look. And this is and what is not being said is the international pressure that's being put on
exactly
the White House and so forth behind it. Mike will go into that in a minute. Certainly about Africa and some other places that have actually confronted the White House on some of this. But this is what's happening, and this is a terrible look. We are looking not terrible, but we're looking terrible, like Mike said. We're looking terrible behind this right now. We're looking terrible. So this is a very ugly. The Medusa is looking like the Medusa looks, man. And a lot of people being turned to stone behind this crap. This is not a good look for us. It's a very, very, very bad look.
Yeah, and somebody in the chat just said there are videos on El Ghost said there are videos online of packages of rocks and bricks being laid out to assist the rioters in damaging stores. It sure smells like Antifa. No, but if I would agree that there's somebody behind it, but Antifa is a catch-all for extreme leftists. And if you do your research, well, you can't find it on YouTube now because YouTube scrubbed those videos, but you might be able to find some reposted stuff. In Ukraine in 2014 and 2013, you had the same strategy long before Trump came into office, okay? Long before Obama left office. In Ukraine, you had Victoria Nuland giving cookies out to the same sort of far-right protesters who are going around doing the same exact thing that you're seeing right now in the United States. Bricks being laid out there. They had snipers out there. If you look at some of the raw footage, RT did an excellent job of archiving a lot of this stuff. Beating police officers, storming the city hall, storming civic institutions and taking over them. I remember, if you know your history in Germany, in Berlin, in the 1930s, there was a famous fire and another group came to power.
Of the Reichstag. Reichstag that blown up, the Brown Shirts did it. And that also helped to sweep Hitler into power. Helped sweep him into power. So certainly did. People don't forget, Hitler he didn't come to power through some military means. He was elected.
Yeah, I was going to add too.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to quickly add that what you were saying, I was listening to a guy who used to be an intelligence officer, and he was saying, some of this looked like the international anarchists, people, like you were saying, with bricks laid out, people showing up, got people out there on bikes, basically saying, hey, police are coming here, kind of directing their guys through where the best places to hit, as well as, they were saying, people would just literally go into the crowd. Like, I didn't know the element of white supremacists, attacking actual protesters. What I was under the impression of was you had people who were basically trying to fit into these crowds, and they were saying, one person would start spray painting something, and then they try to hand it off to a nonviolent protester.
Facts.
Yeah, that is happening. But the portion that I'm referring to is that these extremists, they have a playbook. They have a strategic playbook, and now they're getting very sophisticated with with social media and stuff like that. So they're planning and organizing through social media, through back channels like Signal and things like that, other platforms. In order to organize themselves, so they know where to go. Because you can't have herd immunity with these type of people. They know based on intelligence that they're gathering and sharing. Okay, where's the next place that we need to go? There's somebody who's leading them to the next location. So that's why they know exactly where to show up.
Yeah, I was gonna say too that every time when I was seeing these on TV, I was like, whenever you see the police disperse people, they were saying that's what makes it even harder. Is it's better if you just have the people in one big crowd in one area, even though you may be a little bit overwhelmed, versus when you disperse them, then people start, looting in small groups and hitting different areas, and, cat and mouse game at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you have armed brigands out there. When I say armed, with hammers and stuff out there to create some havoc. And I do wonder, if there's some of these people are being sponsored, and who's sponsoring them. And we want to say Antifa, but we have seen certainly some of the far righters out there. And I do know this looks very much like out of an FBI or a CIA playbook that we've seen not only in this country, but in other ones, foreign countries. Difficult to say, I'm not going to, apply that certainly here, but the momentum of this event is so big, and it's moving a lot of things around here right now. It's moving a lot of stuff around, and the international presence as far as the media and this being played around the world wouldn't surprise me if we had others right now get involved to try to discredit this movement. With that, and the disturbing part that people don't like, race is certainly playing a huge role in here, but the amount of non-Black people involved in this is something new. We've had many riots in this country, many, but how this one is coming about, or demonstrations of how this one is kind of rolling through, it's for lack of a better word, there's a slightly different complexion to this, and that's what I think is most disturbing to some. This is very disturbing, and because they know that this is going to mean further implications down the road. So that's the problem here.
Yeah, let me jump to this next one here from time.com. In a rare move, U.S. embassies in Africa condemned George Floyd murder. So U.S. embassies are taking a voices. So I'm not going to read this because it's pretty basic and self-explanatory. That they're taking a very long distance approach. Although they're on a continent, they're calling it out long distance. And interestingly enough, you don't hear this from other embassies, in Asia or anywhere else. But can can Africans exploit this for their, for the greater cause? I think they can. I think this is the perfect time to come out and say something rather than to say nothing.
Yeah, didn't they have today a what was it, International Day of Mourning in London for the victims of transatlantic slave trade?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was just related to this or if that was like one thing just popped up out of this, or they were planning that before. But it's definitely a moment that'll kind of show a lot of these people who think that you just kind of need to abandon the diaspora and this and that they really don't care. It'll prove a lot of people wrong.
This is going back to the protest. I saw here, in Massachusetts, during the protest, they're firing Roman candles at policemen. You get hit with a Roman candle, especially when that explodes, man. That's a pretty nasty hit.
It is, and depending on what you're wearing, if it's easily flammable, you could catch a little flame on you. So not anything I'd want to be getting hit with, but regardless. But anyway, there's a lot going on here. Somebody says this reeks of anarchist stuff. I don't know. I think that some of that may be playing in there. I think was that El Ghost or I Ghost or whatever. I think that might be playing somewhat of a role. I also think people are waking up, man. People are kind of looking around and seeing, you got all of a sudden you got all these companies getting shut down and people getting lit up and 20 million people out of work and COVID psychosis running amok and all this. I think there's a lot of angst, and people are getting a little tired of the bull crap, and they're starting to see a pattern of what's going on here. And I think even the Mzungos are saying, "Oh shit, we're niggas too. Oh shit, I didn't think so." So I think we're starting to see that, and if this thing starts to move further in that direction, these guys got a problem.
Yep. And you got no sports, no bread and circus to distract people.
No sports. Yeah, they got a problem. I think the Mzungos are saying we niggas too. And this is we don't want to be that. So big issues here. Big issues here, and these jokers that are handling the government right now are very incompetent. They're profoundly incompetent as far as I'm concerned, and they've done nothing in my view well. They've handled none of this right, and I think there is some blowback on that as well.
Yeah, let me read this next piece from front page AfricaOnline.com. African Union Commission condemns murder of George Floyd in the USA. You didn't hear this type of stuff before. This is the first. You didn't hear this type of stuff happening before. So this is interesting because they don't like you though. It was the mantra, not too long ago. Now this is coming out. This will be the jump off point for Pan-Africanism. What happened in China to those Africans, those especially those Nigerians, just a month or so ago, and now this, you're seeing some synergies happen here through social media. Before, during the Obama administration, social media was not really a widely used tool. He was the first president to actually leverage social media to his advantage for his campaign, but it wasn't so much of a widely used tool because, most politicians were not really leveraging it for political gain. Now you're starting to see, on a global scale, different sort of political bodies starting to leverage it to get their message out. And it's good that to see the AU Commission come out and actually condemn this. Because now you're starting to see a process take place of Pan-Africanism in a way that wasn't seen before. I don't know if anybody else has anything they want to add to that.
Yeah, I think that's right on the money. Africa is sitting here, pointing their fingers at us right now. Okay, y'all saying this? What's up, fellas? What you guys doing? What's going on? Mm-hmm. You want to be involved in Africa? You want this? You tan folks out the frame? You got to answer for some of this. We're here. We're an African nation. We're an African nation. Here we are. What country was it? Gambia? Was it Gambia or Namibia? What country are we talking about, Mike?
What are you talking about?
That specifically kind of called the White House to the carpet, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe, calling these guys, we're an African, we're an African country, everyone's looking to kind of come here and open the doors and kind of do business and all this, and this is the game you guys are playing. What's up? Okay, now for all you Negroes out here, they don't like you though. Y'all looking y'all ain't looking good, man. Y'all seem like y'all don't know what's going on. And for those who saying, the hell with Africa, the hell out of here, we ain't dealing with y'all may have to start looking at this thing a little differently. So, Africa's going to play a role. They're going to put pressure on the United States, as well as China and some of these other countries that are going in there and doing business and so forth. There's a lot at stake here. There's a lot on the line here. There's a lot going on. There are a lot of moving pieces to this. And for those who are less three-dimensional, they're thinking, I don't understand. I don't expect them to see some of this. But for those who do, who are more three-dimensional, and how we've been talking here in the Brain Trust over the last year, you'll see that this is significant. So African countries are going to start, as the European nations as well, are chiming in on this, and they're going to call some people to the carpet on this as well. This is not a good look for the United States. So long term, let's see how this plays out. But I expect a lot of political and economic activity will come out of this and other events like this as time goes on down the line, and it's not going to bode well for those who are moving countercurrent to it.
Yeah, let's go to Mr. Darko. He has his hand raised.
Good evening, gentlemen. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yep.
All right. My first time on the Brain Trust. I thank you for allowing me to get on your platform.
Absolutely.
And right now, I've been getting a lot of information from some of my sources, but it looks like what you're seeing now is just the last ditch effort of the Democrats, because they basically up until now, even till now, that like they had completely lost the faith of the people and lost the election, because they after what's his face Biden did that "you ain't black" thing. It was pretty much done. They lost the black vote, and they pretty much had no legs to stand on. And I'm thinking this is a last ditch effort, because anything that's real and from the grassroots, they don't talk about it. It doesn't go on the news. They don't push it. There are no major hashtags. Like at first I thought that it was just I thought it was just one of those situations that got out of control. But now it's like they set it up. They thought it might have been contained in just Minneapolis, but I don't think they expected it to go around the world like that. I don't think they expected it to catch like a wildfire all around the world and just catch the ire of everybody. And the way that everything is being played out now, America just lost its empire, because everybody knows like the highest form of power is influence, and up until now, America still had the influence of the world, because they could always explain away a lot of their bullshit. But after this, I mean, when you've got people in Spain protesting, people in Greece protesting, I mean, Greece and Spain are two of the most racist like countries in like the Mediterranean and the and like Europe, and they got people protesting, being shot by being gassed and beat up by police, because everybody around the world is so outraged.
Well, it's even just bigger than just the outrage, but this is a moratorium in some respects on U.S. policy.
Exactly.
And that's the bigger piece that people have to see. This is a policy thing. Okay, you're coming down on the weaker, less powerful people in your country, and you're choking them out and killing them. This is what you're doing to us internationally.
Exactly.
They're looking at black people as kind of a representative of some of the smaller, weaker nations that are being overpowered by a rather psychopathic, sociopathic bully. And this is what people are kind of responding to. And I also like to say this as well. You're saying the Democrats are done. This, the president is one thing, but if you take a look at the Congress and what might be happening in the Senate, the Democrats look like they may take they're going to certainly hold on to the Congress, and they may take the Senate.
And that's what I mean. And that's what I mean.
So even if President oh my gosh, Trump gets reelected, he may be up in there. Most presidents are lame ducks in their second term, but he may come in there. The lamest Donald Duck you've ever seen. So literally Donald Duck. So
Nagon, that was the second part of my point, is that
okay.
I think they know that no matter what, Trump is going to be there for the second half. But I think that they pulled off this counter coup, and they amped up like all these protests because I feel they're going to use this as a way to galvanize the white voters to vote, because they know no matter what, the older people, like everybody, because remember, up until now, everybody under the age of like 40 and 45 were not even going to vote, and they knew that because all the young people had already checked out. Black people already checked out. So it wasn't the fact that they were like people were going to vote for Trump. A lot of the population were not going to vote, especially the Bernie supporters and all this other stuff. After this incident, they're so enraged, and they're all getting beat up and tear gassed by the police when they're protesting, that there are more young white people mad than there are black people. Black people is just another day. Like, we're used to it. We're probably just, black people are just doing it just to do it. But the white people are so pissed off right now, especially the younger generation, that they're gonna vote, but not only that, but they're gonna vote locally, and they're gonna vote to flip the Senate, to flip the House. So and I think they're using this as kind of like a counter, because they know they're not going to get the presidency because Biden is just a lame duck. But I think that now they're using all this chaos energy to kind of flip and say, okay, if we're not going to get the presidency, let's use the youth. And then because I'm starting to see all these organizers that are able to get thousands of people together. Like, I'm not getting any messages. I'm not getting any WhatsApp messages. Where are all these people coming from? Like, every single day, there's like thousands of people. They're all communicating with each other, but I'm not getting it. So
they have their own back channels. They have their own back channels. I've seen it myself. So there's definitely
it's coordinated,
sophisticated network.
Exactly, and I'm seeing all these people, everybody that's on the mic. I'm trying to identify them, because I'm like, and then when you look into the background of all these so-called activists and organizers and people talking at the rallies, they're former military. They're part of some democratic, grassroots type of people. They've worked on different campaigns. It's not just random people that just decided to get together and march. It's very, very organized. And I'm thinking they're trying to use this energy to just, if they can't get the president to take over the House and do what the Republicans did to Obama.
Yeah.
I was going to add too, with regards to that. I think what you also got to realize, you got so many people who are out of work. You got you got people who really don't have that restraint. You got people who are on unemployment. You got young people who, right around this time would be starting summer school, not doing that, not probably having many summer jobs. So you just kind of got all of these events coming together, bumping up. Now, I will say with regards to the presidency, Trump is in some trouble there. I'm not going to say it's a 100% chance he loses, but one of the big things, even before all this, you had Biden, who was polling over 40% with the white vote, and that hadn't happened since like 1965. So he's definitely gotten a boost from all this. And like I said, I'm not going to say Trump's completely sunk, but it doesn't look good for him right now.
No, it doesn't. It's not in his favor. And what he's doing is actually shooting himself in the foot. But I find it interesting that Greece and Spain, the two countries that are, blocking African migrants from coming in, want to stand, tall, for a dead black man in America. Very, very strange sort of.
Well, they have some reasons because of our economic policies and so forth. Moving towards Greece, holding back on them, holding back on these guys and so forth. They feel as though that, they're being bullied by America to do certain things. And
well, they're not under America's thumb; they're under the European Union's thumb.
Well, they're on the European Unions, but they were looking to get, some more bailout money from the United States. They were supposed to be a NATO country, and they're being treated like a bald-headed and red-headed stepchild, and of which they are.
Yeah, but their funding comes from the ECB. It doesn't come from the United States.
Well, they actually, it does, but they actually tried to petition the United States. And I got to take a look at this because I remember reading it last year that they were trying to get the United States to come in and help to fund them directly. And they were basically kicked back to the fat, and just a lot of stuff. They have a lot of issues with us and how we, kind of control them politically. And that's their big issue, I think, with us, that we have too much influence inside of their country, and who's going to, who's what and what's what and on all of that. Even though they're very racist, they, they're rather fucked up. They're kind of incompetent in how they've handled it. And the big problem is they don't have a big economy that's really producing a lot, that's garnering a great deal. So, they're having some issues, and they feel as though, we ain't looking out, but we've always had a strong hand over them, and we've put dictators into their country and everything else like that. We've always had a lot of control as to how Greece runs. So I think that's this is some of what they're protesting. I don't think they give a damn about black people, but I think this is a way to put pressure on them in some ways. I think I could be wrong, but that's my take. Spain as well. Anyway,
let's go to Mr. Darko, who has his hand raised.
Yeah, well, I mean, when it comes to this issue, I think, to be honest with you, I'm getting a lot of intel from some of my people that are, in the different factions, that I know that this looks like a potential psyop that kind of just went off the rails, and they're really just trying to ride the wave. I don't think they expected this to be a worldwide phenomenon. This guy within the past week he's nearly almost a saint. The knee on his neck is basically used as a symbol of American oppression and American imperialism.
That's oppression and policy. Very good. That's what I said.
Exactly.
I was going to add too.
So it's not even about it's not just about his death. He's just everybody that has had an issue with the authoritarian system, with police here. Everybody had a visceral reaction to it, and it all went to just feeling weak, having this feeble white dude, all these people on your neck. I mean, the symbolism is just ridiculous, and just coincidentally, had the little weak Asian Chinese dude there too, which is there are no coincidences. How is it that in Minnesota you can have 4 police officers, and conveniently the 2 officers that you see is a white man killing a black man, and then an Asian being the lookout. I mean, the symbolism is crazy. Yeah. So they've knocked 2 birds with 1 stone. So around the world, people hate the American white male, and they hate the Chinese all at the same time as two superpowers. That are basically, that's got their foot on our necks, and one is blocking everybody from helping the black man, which maybe represents Africa, and he's looking out and basically preventing all the other countries from helping and basically rescuing this man. So I just find the symbolism crazy.
Yeah, let's go to
No, I was gonna say too, just with regards to the outrage, I'm honestly not surprised with regards to how big it's gotten, because you have to think, I mean, the only thing you can compare this to is Rodney King, where you have something like that on tape, and Rodney King lived, this guy died, literally on tape, and not even with a gun, where police normally say, I'm making a split-second decision, and I was afraid for my life. No, for 8 minutes, this guy literally begged for his life. And it's just like, you have to think, in some of these countries, they don't even have police that have guns. So just the fact that you see a police officer who doesn't use a gun and literally kills someone with his own body weight is just, it just sends people into a tailspin, which it rightfully should. This time is different, I think.
Yeah, I mean I'm sorry, Mike.
Yeah, I wanted to go to Vision because he's been trying to get in. Okay, I think Vision's reading a book right now. Let's go to Wacky World of O. Oh, man,
how you doing? How you guys doing?
Good, brother. Shalom.
Shalom.
What's up, man? What's up, bro?
I'm just speaking in general.
Your mic is
Yeah,
breaking.
your mic is working heavy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. Okay, I'll be back. Hold on.
Yeah. Let me read this last piece, man, from CGTN. Ghanaian president seeks justice for George Floyd. Black people the world over, this is his tweet. Black people the world over are shocked and distraught by the killing of an unarmed black man. George Floyd by a white police officer in the United States of America. It carried with it an all too painful familiarity and an ugly reminder. It cannot be right that in the 21st century, the United States, this great bastion of democracy, continues to grapple with the problem of systematic racism. On behalf of the people of Ghana, I express my deep condolences to the family and loved ones of the late George Floyd. We stand with our kith and kin in America in these difficult and trying times, and we hope that the unfortunate tragic death of George Floyd will inspire a lasting change in how America confronts head-on the problems of hate and racism. That's from the leader of Ghana, the Ghanaian president.
Yeah, I was gonna say too.
I heard somebody say "fuck Africa."
Oh wow.
Go ahead, Renaissance.
No, I was gonna say, as far as actual change goes, we're gonna get to see how valuable the Congressional Black Caucus is, because Nancy Pelosi has pretty much thrown the ball to them to sort of take the lead on drafting some of these reforms. So and you even had Mitch McConnell come out and express like, hey, we need to do something. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with, and then how much they're able to actually get past. But this is, like I said, this is different. And then as well as to see, Barack Obama had a town hall today talking about basically the commission that he set up that the Trump administration pretty much threw in the garbage, but on 21st century policing. So, you have several pieces of legislations and things on the books, as well as I know the guy, D. Ray McKesson, was talking about. He's had congressmen reach out as well too on legislation. So you have a lot of ideas and a lot of things organized. It'll be interesting to see how much actually gets passed, but I think you got to get something just because it's made such big world news.
I am on a Zoom. I'll be on a Zoom town hall hangout stream on Sunday with the Black State Senator and some others that we're going to sit here and talk about what's going on here in the state and see how certain things are going to turn around, potentially change politically. So there's a lot of political movement actually going on right now, and I have to, give a lot of credit to my girl Nicole. She helped organize this as well. She was dead on the money on this, there's a lot of movement going on this. So I think we're going to see some stuff potentially come out of it. How deep it is, I don't know, but I think we're going to see people running offices and a lot of different things going on. I think there's going to be some laws that are going to be put forth. Whether they'll be adopted or not will be another question. But I think there'll be certainly some good coming out of it. And the international pressure is exactly what we need. We need a lot of international pressure here as well. On this, which is throughout history has always been significant and helpful.
Yeah, Cuomo was saying up in your way that he was looking at a piece of legislation already about police disciplinary records, that making those public. That's already some legislation that they've been looking at. I guess they had I think a union that sort of pushed to keep it private, but that was already one thing they were already talking about getting in gear and trying to get passed.
And law enforcement is a public institution, so I'm not sure why that's even a challenge.
Well, what we're talking about, Mike is dead on. Mike is dead ass on that. Dead ass right on that. And the bottom line, and what I didn't want to say what we're talking about, but we're really talking about possibly statewide in almost every municipality that we have here, really starting to empower a larger state-run kind of civilian review board, and dealing with the police from that perspective, and these boards having some say with the unions, and because that's where the big effery really goes on, and dealing with them, of course, at the local level, and having the ability to really, put them, not only have them fired, but bring them up on charges, put them in front of a court, put them in front of a courtroom, and civilians have a great hand in that. Will that totally stop all the problems? I don't believe it will totally stop it, but what it will do is it will make people much more responsive to the needs of the locals in New York City. And these people in New York City's got a lot of powerful players in there, and this is going to be big. So let's see what kind of motions we get on that. But this is what's needed. You're going to have civilians in charge, because once you are in charge of what's going on in your municipality with your police, and now you're watching them and they have to respond and act a certain type of way, I think you'll start seeing some differences going on. You won't have as many guys putting their knees on people's necks and looking in the camera with 1,000-yard stare saying, "This is what I do." No, I don't think so. I don't think so. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, bringing up the statement that Nana Adu said, he said "kith and kin." That's Pan-Africanist language. I don't think people really understand this. That's Pan-Africanist language. And so I think the statement was on the money, but I also think he could have went one step further by offering the brother and actually the daughter of George Floyd dual citizenship to Ghana. I think that would have been a very strong move by Nana Adu, because he has the capability of doing something. He has, the ability to executive order, right?
Yeah, he could.
Mike, I actually sent him a message, like right on that same message that he sent, asking them to play a referendum to basically give Africans in the diaspora and African Americans especially either a visa on demand to Africa, and at least work on getting them permanent residency. Like, even if they don't have to give them citizenship, at least allow them to be able to be fast tracked to get permanent residency, so they can at least be able to, start businesses, get, be able to purchase, property and things of that nature. So at least, he doesn't have to go so far into just giving them citizenship, but at least being able to give them visa on demand, so that they don't even have to go to the consulate. They could just take a plane, hop on a plane, come there, and deal with just purchasing the visa when they get there. So at least it'll encourage people to come, because our people, man, like they're lazy, having to go to consulate and send in your passport, and having to get the
you gotta adjust your mic.
I'm sorry.
There's some feedback. That stuff is going to change, but the point that I was just making was that it doesn't necessarily have to be anything extracurricular. It just needs to be a bold statement that says your daughter, the daughter of George Floyd, will have dual citizenship and access to university institutions in Ghana. That in itself sends a strong message that this is an international effort, right? He didn't have to waste any money. doing something like that. It's a simple tweak. It's a simple swift with the pen to do something like that. It wouldn't cost them anything. In fact, this is how you build a Pan-Africanist network, right? Because the language that's using is Pan-Africanist language, but these people who say that, oh, the Africans don't care about us, this and that. Well, what do you call this right here? What do you call Nana Addo's statement? Sounds like he cares pretty much to me.
Yeah, I mean, but a lot of people who are saying this, they have a lot of different reasons for saying it. Some are speaking out this out of ignorance and stupidity, but then you also have others who speak out of this for a certain level of xenophobia, because they have an agenda strictly to deal here, and are not really looking at this thing three-dimensionally. They want to be in control of the narrative here and don't really want to expand outwards, and are kind of isolationist almost in their in their thinking. So they are non-Pan-Africanists, and they're strictly ADOS driven people, and feel as though that the only way you're going to make moves are just doing it here on your own, of which history has shown us that this is not true. But that's what some of these people are really pinning on, and I think they're dead wrong. And I think in some respects it's a certain level of lack of understanding of history long term, and yeah, I'm going to say some levels of stupidity as well. But there'll be those who will, of course, will argue against that. But that's what I think. I think it's a matter of agendas, and I think the Pan-Africanist agenda, to a large extent, from business and politics, is where we're going to make a lot of inroads and a lot of moves. I mean, if the Asians and others are heavily getting involved in that, well, why are we not involved? It makes no sense to me. But I don't want to get into a large conversation on that right now. But that's a key piece here. That's a key piece, and I think we should be pursuing that a lot more.
Yeah,
Presidents who are backing you up and everything else like that. Very important that we see that.
Let's go to
yeah. I'm gonna actually, because my aunt knows him very well. He was actually at her 80th birthday party about a year and a half ago. So I'm gonna have to give my aunt a call and ask her if she can, put a bug in his ear and see, if he can make something like that happen. If he does do it, then you know where he got it from. But I mean, right now this is a hydra. I don't think they expected this to. I don't think they expected the amount of chaos that has happened right now. I mean, like the white people are so shook right now, like it's not even funny. Like they're willing to just give anything. I mean, think about it. Before that they were denying ADOS, they were denying reparations, and now on TV, they're admitting all their faults, and they want to have referendums to talk about it. They're discussing like how much money you need. I mean, they're so scared right now that this is going to devolve into because they know if it's not even about the protesters. Like the protesters, they all got guns, but if it keeps going, then that gives more power to Trump to be able to bring in the military. And once he brings in the military, that's it, full martial law, and then he's going to be able to suspend the Constitution and everything, and all elections are gone, and then he's going to basically be a dictator. So now, like, all the moderates and liberals, they're trying to do anything they can to appease us, to have us go home, so that they don't end up, Trump and the conservatives don't use us as a tool to be able to take over the country. So we're just pawns, but I mean, a pawn can win a chess game, if the pawn knows how to play. So and I think that's where we're at right now. If we make the right moves, we can come out ahead of this and play them off against each other.
Yeah, let's go to DE Raptor. He has his hand raised. Oh yeah, she doesn't have his hand raised. He just came in. DE Raptor, can you hear us?
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. How you guys doing?
Oh, shalom, doing.
DE.
Shalom. I agree with Nagon and the other brother on this. There are like 3 agendas being pushed now.
Mm-hmm.
And one is being pushed just because of some people are pretending that they're shocked about, that video. That video, they're pretending that they're now shocked.
Mhm.
And that's, one of their agendas is to, what, we're gonna say we're gonna give them whatever they want, or pretend that we're gonna try to help until this thing calms down. And then you have the other agenda that they're pushing ADOS because it benefits them. You understand? This voice was in the wilderness for a long time, and these people were keeping quiet because nothing was happening. But now they figure, oh shoot, because of this, it's going to benefit ADOS people. So they are kind of like, we're going to go along with the program, but not really. They're not with the program.
Yep.
And then you got the other agenda, which was against Marcus Garvey for the longest time. And they're going to know about that. Everybody knows about that. So,
break it down.
You got a lot of agendas being pushed here right now. And a lot of people are not seeing it, even though I was looking at another channel there. They showed that people marching in Houston, which they were quiet. But, if people start doing this like they did in 1965, let's say, then a lot of people are going to lose their positions if they don't get aligned with somebody. So, you got all these agendas being pushed. So we got to be careful, because what happened after 1965, after he died, it was everybody for themselves, and we end up right back where we started. And you can't be equal with evil. Anytime you jump into trying to be equal with evil, either you're going to become evil or you're going to serve it. That's what happened. They serve evil, and what's happened? The people themselves, they serve the people with the agenda, and it's a backfire on the people who are basically, I guess, the bottom of the pyramid.
Yeah, I think it's pretty accurate. All right, go ahead. Anybody else? Go ahead. I'm done.
I agree. You got, like I said, multiple groups of people out there who are fighting this war. I think some people, I don't know what everyone on the panel, their reaction to the video really is as regards to, are you surprised that someone would do this or not? I know for me personally, I was surprised that dude would be bold enough to do it in front of a crowd with people yelling at you, one person filming. But maybe his ego got to him, and he didn't want to look like he was in the wrong. But I think a lot of people just were caught completely off guard that something like this would happen. So
I don't know if you're a younger brother.
Yeah, I'm younger.
Not surprised. Me, I'm not surprised, bro.
Even the fact that he did it on video in front of people.
Yes.
No, he got caught. See, that's the thing. The girl who recorded this, they didn't have any anticipation that this person would actually do that, right? It just so happened she happened to have her phone out. Just so happens that she had it out.
Okay, because I know he threatened to mace her at one point, and she continues filming.
The fact that he did it, you understand? It's like, I don't care. It's not like he's saying, I can do this no matter if you're filming me or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Tuesday.
Because
it's a Tuesday. It's just another day, bro. Like, this happens every day, bro.
Exactly.
I mean, it's just another Tuesday to him, bro.
Right.
Like, it's not even we're not surprised, because the reason why it's so brazen is because so many, it's just been one after another after another. I mean, literally, like it's the same month, we were still dealing with the Breonna Taylor situation. Yep. You know what I'm saying? That where these guys weren't even brought up on charges. So obviously, it's like power, power corrupts. If you feel you're invincible, and you have immunity from the federal government, where you can't be sued, there's nothing can happen to you. Well, I mean, why wouldn't? And he's already killed, I think 4 other people or 3 other people. He's already been involved in other murders that he got off with. So you get to a point, like a serial killer. Most serial killers are caught because they get sloppy. You know what I mean? They get to a point whereby they kill so many people that they don't even care anymore, and then they get sloppy, and that's how they get caught.
Well,
You know
I
what
just want to say this. You bring up a supreme point, which is dead on the money. The key thing I just saw something just earlier today, or maybe it was yesterday, where the aggressive police training of what they actually have this underneath aggressive police training. The mayor.
Warrior training, they call it.
Warrior training, exactly. But it's aggressive police training, warrior training. You hit it right.
That's what they call it.
You're hitting it right in the head. They, the mayor of Minneapolis said, no, listen, we got to cut this back. These guys said, screw you, mayor. We're going to keep it going, and we're not going to shut this warrior training down. We're going to keep this thing going in our department. And here's the mayor, who's head of the police department. These guys are sitting there telling the mayor, no, man, ain't going to happen.
They're all out of control. Like every single police, and that's why all the politicians are going along with it, because they know, like in every single major city, the politicians don't have control of the police. The police have complete. They do whatever they want. It's like a gang. That's why everybody calls them like, and that's why you see they can talk.
You gotta have
they can say
civilian
whatever
control.
They want.
That's exactly right. That's why you gotta have civilian control. You gotta have some. They have to be. The laws are going to have to be changed in these states to really change this around, which is going to be a monumental enterprise because the police are.
I don't think so. I don't.
Well, they're tied into the military industrial. They're tied into the MIC. They're tied into the military industrial complex with weaponry and everything else like that. So there's a lot that's there that ties some very powerful corporate entities that are involved with this that are very big in the government as well. So there's a lot going on. There's going to be a lot of opposition to it. Can it be overcome? Sure, it can. But will it is the question. But when I see the police unions and say, nah, we're going to keep this aggressive police training, this warrior training going. We're going to keep that on, and screw what the mayor says is ill. And that's where these guys come in. These guys are involved in training where they're not designed. Training is not designed to keep a police officer from de-escalate the situation. It's to escalate things. It's to escalate things and bring it to a level to where you're tearing someone out the frame. And they're bringing in these rather low IQ savages to come in there who your police forces are basically run by criminals. I mean, these guys are this guy's a criminal on the police. This is a criminal. It's a guy who was attacking people and killing people or hurting people. Maybe this guy is a criminal. These are criminals on these forces running around, getting live as they want. These are criminal enterprises. I mean, in a de facto, horrible to say.
Right. His history proves that he is a protected class.
This guy, his history shows he's a criminal.
Yeah,
this
but
guy
he's
is a
protected.
straight up fucking criminal, bro.
His criminal behavior is a protected. It's
listen,
it's protected
you're totally
by
right
the
about
judges, the prosecutor. It's protected by the former mayor. This mayor is the only one spoke up against it. It's protected by the former mayor. There's a system that protects, that builds up. If you are,
and it's enterprise wide. It's enterprise wide.
Right. If you're a politician and you vote against the police pulls you over in the middle of the night somewhere. They watch you and watch you and watch you everywhere you go. And then they get the opportunity to pull you over. And nobody is there to witness what they do to you. And they say, you see, I can do anything that I want to you now. You see? So you need my protection. Guess what that politician is going to do? He's going to get, especially if it's a woman, you're shaken up. You got to pledge your support to the police department. If you're a judge, you got to pledge your support to the police. If a policeman come in court and lie to you, you cannot charge him if you're a judge. You can't tell the prosecutor, you got to charge this man with cause. The judge keeps his mouth shut.
It's a racket. It's a racket.
Yeah, it's definitely a racket. And the bad thing about it is you have many of these police forces with many people on them that are running a de facto criminal enterprise. And that's what you've got going on. And this is what I think people are responding to as well. Because yes, not only black people get killed, but a lot of white folks get killed as well, Latinos and others, but a lot of white folks get torn out by this system. And you don't hear about that more so because a lot more white people, but they do get killed. And you've got these police forces for all practical purposes running amok. It's kind of like de facto death squads, and people know it. I mean, like this white woman in Central Park, knowing that the police near NYPD is a partial criminal enterprise. I'm going to call it out like that. I know some, and I got some good friends who are police officers, but sorry, I got to call out what it is. And here's this white woman, the black man's coming to get me, and she's screaming, her funky tuna smelling ass up in there, screaming off for the cops, who's trying to get this man killed. Because she knows that when they come there on her and she raises her voice, they're going to come there and look to kill him. I mean, they understand this. So that's what I'm saying. Even though these people know that how bad these police departments are, some people still want them because they're the attack dogs that can keep you in line and others in line that they want to come up against you and kill you anytime they want. And this is a big part of it as well. So that's why I say might be tough to turn some of this around.
Yeah, you're right, DE. I was going to say Keith Ellison in his news conference today, he was still saying, how hard it was going to be still to get a conviction for all four police officers. And people were just pointing out on the network that, you got a lot of these police where one of the reforms you need is if you have like an officer involved shooting or something like that, you basically need an outside entity to come in and prosecute that, because like you said, with the relationships, how they work with the prosecutors all the time, they're not going to press charges on other things. And they were just showing, like, I think it showed since 2016, like nationwide, you've had 3 police officers convicted of murder total throughout all that time. So they were just saying how unprecedented it is just to get these charges.
It's hard to get them.
Yeah, I also foresee some new legislation or policy coming down the pipe with this administration on social media and mobile phones. They're going to figure out a way to say that if you're recording police activity during an arrest, that you could be held accountable for interference into police activity, into police common activity.
If you're just filming them and just not engaging, just filming them.
Yeah, because that footage is now being leveraged against them, right? So social media is also going to play a role in this, because the applications that are being used, Instagram and Periscope and Facebook Live and YouTube and live streaming and stuff like that, they're also going to play a significant role in this, because what do they do with the privileges of those who have access to these applications, and they just start recording stuff and uploading it in real time? See, that's the only reason we're talking about this, is because this person had the opportunity to record it and upload it as soon as possible. Whereas, with Trayvon Martin, you didn't really have that. I mean, you had, the police, the dispatch call, but you didn't have the actual recording, right? And so that's what changed it. And same thing with Michael Brown. You didn't really have, you had eyewitnesses on the ground, but you didn't have an actual recording. And so I think that's what the game changer with this is, that it was caught in such detail from the quality of the phone itself, that it was an open and shut case. But the same thing happened with Eric Garner, right? The brother who recorded that, they actually arrested him.
Yep.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I really expect. Over the last week and a half, I was expecting all the people, anybody who had cell phone or evidence, just practical, not just eyewitness evidence, but other evidence that shows what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime that they come forward with it, they normally get investigated, arrested, harassed. Mm-hmm. And I'm still waiting for that to happen. I expect it to happen.
Well, something. The guy that filmed the guy Slager who shot the black guy who ran away from him 6 times in the back. I forget.
South Carolina.
Yeah.
Scott.
Shot him in the back. Yeah. Patrick Scott. He did. They gave him 20 years, so he went to jail. He did 20 years. He's doing 20. And the guy who filmed it, a black officer told him to keep the film and submit it to the police department. He was definitely getting harassed as well. So and here in New York City, they have a thing called Cop Watch, where you have people running around with cameras and stuff, and they're coming after people. And these cops here in New York City, these guys are freaking. Like I said, they're animals. You are dealing in a large extent with not a police force, but a gang. Instead of Crips and the Bloods, these guys are the cops. The cops and the Bloods, man. These guys ain't playing around.
No, they're a terrorist organization. They're a terrorist organization.
I was going to add too, Mike. You got you even have trouble just trying to keep them to keep body cams on. Like up in Louisville, they had a business owner who got shot the other night. And the body cams are off, and they ended up firing the police chief because he was like, "Hey, new policy, like body cams have to be on at all times." And granted, he was going to retire in July, but that first instance right there were no body cams on. Yep,
and they left the guy out in the street for 12 hours or something like that. Yeah, it was ill. Yeah, I mean, so to really get up on these police, you're going to need something very substantial to change this around, and I think it's going to be very difficult, because as much as people are screaming out about them, they do like to have the ability to say, "I'm going to call the cops on you," because now I drive around and somebody tells me, "I'm going to call the cops." I haven't happened in a while, but the last white dude who ran it on me, I said, "I'll sue your ass. I'll take every last freaking nickel you have from you in court." And he looked at me and got real nervous and closed up his door and took off. But I told him I'd fucking sue you, and he he depledged at that moment. But that's what I say to anybody. If anybody calls, you say they're gonna call, tell them I'm gonna sue you. I'll sue your ass. I'll bring you into the courtroom. I'm gonna freaking sue you. All right, and we'll see how that goes in the courtroom. People understand the money game, and they don't want to be in court. I can tell you that. So hit them with that, and I think that works. But with these police officers, you gotta be very careful because they don't want you filming them. Mike may be right. I don't know if they can. Stop you from filming a scene because obstruction of justice would be getting in the middle of a scene where somebody is is getting in the middle of the arrest. But if you're standing back and you're just filming them and you're not doing anything, I'd be very interested to see how they're gonna bring any laws against that. Because they threw that out in court in New York City. They said you can film the police, and they know it. That's why they're upset about it. That's why they intimidate people. Say it again.
No, you also have the Fourth Amendment that protects you. Your right to privacy. But if it comes down between law enforcement being subjugated to criminal charges for this sort of behavior, I think they're going to make a strong case for it. If Trump's in office, he's going to be the right guy to do it. They'll figure out a way to squeeze it through there.
Yeah, they might. Yeah. I mean, it's a possibility. They might. I mean, they tried it in New York City already, to say you couldn't film it, and that was thrown out. So they could not. That was not upheld. So you can be filmed. You can actually follow the police and as long as you're at a certain distance of them and not getting in the way of the commission of their job, you can film them. You can film them, man. You can film their ass, and that's what they're mad about. That's why they're trying to intimidate people and have their cops around saying, you better you got to get back a certain ways, and then they get in your face. And then they look like the gangsters that they are because they can hurt you.
The question isn't whether they can or they can't. It's what's the consequences of it. And I think this is the kind of the spat back and forth between Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey on censorship. I think they're going to try to push for a level of censorship in regards to police officers and whether or not these pieces of evidence can be, these sort of recordings can be used and admissible in the court of law against these officers. And so, or against police department. And so I think that's going to come down to the, to that's going to be the deciding point. So in all these cases, Eric Garner, Walter Scott, and Floyd, where you have civilian footage of all of this. I mean, in the Walter Scott case, they tried to throw the cell phone recording out
He got off on the state charges, Walter,
Yeah.
on Michael Flager. It was only the feds that came in and got him because you had one guy who basically hung the jury, and you got it right there on tape.
And he said, I don't care. He may be guilty, but I just can't convict no white police officer. Basically, that's what he was saying. I just ain't gonna convict him. And the feds were like, okay, well, since there's some federal civil rights laws and stuff that we may see that we're torn out the frame here, let's get this dude. And plus, it looked really bad when he said the guy went for his taser, and then while he was walking to the scene, he took the taser off of his belt and dropped it on the ground. Kind of setting up the scene. I think that's what really got him. But
No, well, that's really what got him. Is just shooting him in the back. That's really what got him.
No. I'm saying what really got him convicted, because cops shoot people in the back all the time, and they tell people.
Gentlemen, trust me when I tell you, we're in a completely different arena right now.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, you don't understand. Like, we're so tenuous. Like, we're like at like, we're not even in the 12th hour. We're like in the 13th hour right now. Like, we're so close to civil war and like a complete purge and unrest. Like, the problem that's going on that is not about the protests. It's not even about anything. There's a complete breakdown and mistrust, like, of the police officers. Even like the most well-meaning white person now looks at the cops the same way black people do, and that's a problem because up until that video, they still had the trust and the belief that they were the good guys from the majority. They no longer have that. So the contract between the population and the police force has been completely severed. I mean, it's been 180. Think about it. What is it? Like 50 Cent was said that it was all good just a week ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, literally just a week ago. You know what I'm saying? These dudes, the knight in shining armors, now they're worse than niggas. You know what I'm saying? Like, people look at them in disgust. Like, nobody, their image has been so tarnished right now that it's given the power back to the politicians, because the politicians didn't like them because they were being bullied by the unions, by the fraternal order of police. Like, these guys suck up a lot of budget money, and plus with all the people suing them, all the municipalities having to pay out millions and millions of dollars. Like, they've got a bond. They have a bond in the stock market called the police brutality bond, whereby they pay into an ETF that regular people don't even know about. They pay bonds into an ETF whereby because people sue them so much and they drain like the public budget, they've got to borrow money from like Wall Street bankers to basically pay out for police brutality, and then they pay back into the bond at a later date. So like, there's people out there that are making millions of dollars and billions of dollars off of police brutality. That's why it never ends, because there's people out there on Wall Street that's making money off of it. It's crazy. Like, they literally have a derivative off of police brutality. Like once I found out, I was so pissed off, bro. Like, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Like they're literally making money off of police brutality, bro.
Let's go to DE Raptor.
The brother is right, but there's also additional. If you see, it's like the older Caucasian people, most of them are still silent. They might think, well, you know what, this is wrong, but most of them are silent. The ones that are vocal about it are the younger Caucasians, and they're not. If you see, like, the Atlanta CNN, they were the one who were so angry that they were, you know what, let me at the police, kill me if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like 1965. Those same young people were following Martin Luther King, and the government had to shut them down. They were the one who were attacking, making the bombs and all that, and blowing up places, blowing up things. And the government had to shut them down, started paying them $1 million to sit behind a desk in Wall Street and wherever they wanted to work. The government, the wealthy people in America just shoving money into their pockets. If you look back at history, you'll see that.
Yeah, let's go to Renaissance Man. He has his hand raised.
No, I was just gonna quickly add when they were talking all about the amount of money with police, I didn't realize how big the budget was. They were saying the NYC budget is $6 billion, and you got people basically pushing to, either reduce it or basically do an audit because they're like, this is too much money for them to be sucking up just in a $6 billion budget, and then you got to pay out claims and for misbehavior as well too. So
Yeah.
But bro, you got the situation where right now, police in New York City, they are working so much overtime, and this what they do is these guys retire on $100,000, $150,000 a year retirement after 20 years. Some of them deliberately get hurt so they can stay off work 6 months, a year, and their buddies back them up. Their chief back them up. If they follow what the chief said, the chief backs them up. This money is coming from the taxpayers. They don't care.
You have some cops. They had to put a moratorium in, literally, or they had to put a restriction on overtime there for here in the city for a while, because you had cops who were working around the clock. They were taking home $250,000 a year, man.
Yep, I know.
250,000. They were just working around the clock. This kind of money these guys are making.
Yeah, Massachusetts state troopers had that issue last year.
Big beer belly donut eating mofos dipping around. Bellies milking over their belts, dipping around, getting paid like that. Crazy.
We got Mr. G on the panel. What's going on, Mr. G?
Good evening, fellas, man. Good evening. Yeah, I hear what you guys talking about. You guys discussing some good topics, man. I pretty much just got on, but I know just this whole situation has been a wake up call to the Black community to make us realize how important. And I know some people are going to disagree with me, how important it is to be in position of leadership in this country. And I mean, in public position of leadership in this country. It's important for us to have our own people that run for these offices as pertains to whether it's mayor, the DA's office, commissioner, city council, things of that nature, which has to do with voting. And I know a lot of Black people there, they got this thing about voting, and one thing is never going to fix the problem. There's not a silver bullet for this whole thing. It's a multi-approach. It's a multi-front solution. We can't think that just because you vote is going to change things, and just because you vote doesn't mean that that person you vote for is going to change everything over time. But guess what? You want to vote, or you welcome that voting, or you think voting doesn't do anything. Guess what? They on the mayonnaise side, they welcome that shit.
Yeah, I agree with you about the voting part. I think voting was the bare minimum, right? So if we had a 3-level sort of state of affairs, right? Low, medium, and high. From a peripheral standpoint, voting was like low, right? On a low scale. And then political activism was the second, was the medium. And then third was absolute, game plan, go forward, touchdown sort of scenario. We haven't gotten to, the medium yet. And so, although I'm seeing a lot of these videos of young Black activists out there. I mean, some of these are under 25. Really impressive stuff I'm seeing, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere because it's going right back. If you're going to be an activist and you're going to go right back into the Democratic Party, you're just repeating the same cycle. You're repeating the same cycle. It's not going anywhere. I know Biden wants to come out here and have his little press conference and whatnot. lot of this, a lot of these issues also can be traced right back to his doorstep, his policy. So Hillary, I know a lot of people, a lot of older boomers, support her, but at the same time, she just is guilty and responsible for a lot of these issues. So we have to look at this from another dimension, and where so there's a lot of feedback from people. I think that's coming from
Hillary finished.
yeah, I'm hearing a lot of feedback from people on here. I think it might be Mr. G. And so I think what's happening here is that we're always getting stuck with the same sort of strategy. Someone dies, we leverage that person or that black man's death for political political activism, protesting and so on and so forth. And then that person runs for office, and then they get in, and then nothing changes. We got to change up the that gameplay, right? That game plan. I'm sorry. It has to be a lot more strategic than just going back to the Democratic Party and thinking that we're gonna take over it.
But Brother Mike, can I say something for like 5 seconds? Then I'm just gonna lay this out. Then you guys can just eat at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I hear what you're saying, but I don't think this is not something that you don't know, because you're highly smart, and I don't want to be condescending. I think you're probably smarter than me, but bro, come on, man. It's like it's all about, and you said it. We have to be more strategic. It's all about who's going to give you something, who's willing to give you something. It doesn't matter if it's purple, yellow, green, gray. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. So who is more willing to even sit and talk with you? Who's more willing to even work with you? Who's more willing to put something on the table for you? I mean, now the problem is that you are not following up to hold them accountable to give you that. But I mean, is it a completely bad move to go with the person who's willing to give you something, who's even willing to sit with you? Let's be honest. Let's be honest. If they're coming up with strategy for the last many years to not even make sure that you can vote, what makes you think they're gonna come up with policies for you? I'm done. Right. You guys can go ahead and eat at that.
All right, let's go to DE Raptor.
Look, we know their policy, and it's not to help us. I mean, history will prove it. 400 years. I mean, the Constitution is written into the Constitution. Yep. It is written into the Constitution. So you shouldn't expect that help. Mm-hmm. What you have to do is, like, if you're going to fight to stay here, the people who are fighting for you, you can't be letting them get co-opted, because that's what's happening. You mentioned after being elected, these people don't get elected by accident. They find a leader in that organization that is protesting, and they say, "Oh, you know what? Come work with us, and we will get you this position." They don't say money; they said position. But after you get to the living, after they put you in the Congress, maybe they say, "You know what? We'll put you in the Congress." And after you get there, they say, "Well, you know what? We'll tell you what to vote for and what not to vote for. And anything that has to do with us, you never vote for." You know what I'm saying? You become a candidate like Barack Obama. Or well, even this guy. Before the guy in office right now, he knew the pandemic was coming, but he couldn't do anything. His hands tied. When he sit down, first people he called to was Wall Street. but give them all the money, and the poor people who are dying and have no jobs or whatever the case might be, they have no help. And that's what happens. Is our people that we depend on, that they come to us, look like us, they get, sweet talked into to just be in the face. They show up when somebody dies, and they said, "Keep hope alive," or remind us about the dream, how the wolf and the sheep can sit down together. It doesn't work anymore. The
Yeah,
younger people now are saying, you know what, hell with that foolishness. So now what you got to do is protect those younger people.
mhm.
And they have to start, the people who got knowledge have to grab a hold of those younger people and tell them this is what you're going to expect. But we're here with you, and we're going to show you how to navigate this. If you're going to stay here, that's what you got to do. You got to navigate through a system without being co-opted.
All right, let's go to Renaissance Man.
Yeah, I was just going to add, Mike, on what you were saying about sort of the three different levels. I would add kind of like voting being that first level, political activism. Even from what I've seen, it looks like you've got agendas sparsed out with all these various organizations. Like I know there are several people who've been working on police reform for several years now, who already had a website of 7 reforms that they've been lobbying, trying to get pushed. And then that third level would kind of be that independence of sort of having your own party / holding these people accountable, through think tanks and institutes. That's kind of the hierarchy I see, but we're still trying to get that first level going, which it does make a difference. DAs are elected, mayors are elected who turn around and appoint police chiefs. You actually had in Ferguson, I believe, last night or day before, they actually elected the city's first Black mayor. So Black woman is going to be the mayor out there. So people got to get their brains out of this idea that their vote doesn't count and it doesn't work. Everyone goes out and votes strategically and votes at the block and votes behind an agenda. It can be very powerful.
I mean, we've done it before. I mean, during the 60s, we came out there with civil rights. We went to Voting Rights Act and the whole deal. I mean, even Richard Nixon backed up the Voting Rights Act of '64 when he got in and horrified the right wingers. But he did because he was getting I think he got close to 20% of the black vote or something like that. I mean, anyway, he caught a large number of black people voting for him. But at the end of the day, you have to have your own candidates that you can put out there, that you have, that you can sponsor,
Mm-hmm.
that's coming out of your movement, if you will. Put them up, and so they make sure that they are going to put forth your agenda and move them forward, and have a whole slate of them. We saw the Tea Party do it back in 2012 or 2016 or whatever. They came at the Tea Party, came out there with all their people, and they ran their slate of candidates, and they organized. I mean, we've seen this done. This is not anything impossible to do or something that you have to recreate the wheel. We've done this. It's just that you now have to get very serious about really getting out and voting and just working with the organizations that are about this business, and just be serious about getting out. You can easily organize your own building, on your block. It takes work a little bit. It takes some work, certainly. And you can do a lot of this online as well. But, this is something that can be done very, I'm going to say somewhat easily. Doesn't take, some, you got to recreate some wheel here. But you put forth your candidates, and then you have your agenda with your demands in place. That's how you get what you have to get. People respond to numbers. People respond to people coming out and voting, either for someone or against someone. People respond to that. I'll say this right now: the Republican Party, they're scared shit of Michelle Obama. They're scared of her. They don't even bring her name up. They're terrified of this woman. Trump is terrified of Michelle Obama. They don't want to hear her name even being brought out there. They don't even want to bring it up to even create a problem. That's how afraid they are of her. They're terrified. They think she comes out, it's game over. You know, that's what a lot of people are thinking. Terrified of this woman. So you have to look at what people are saying, what people aren't saying, how, you know, what's going to move people and what's not going to move people. It's a numbers game. So you have to be able to produce that. And that's where we're at in this game. It always has been that case, and it's always going to be. You know, people who don't want to vote, you're not going to be heard. You're not going to be taken seriously. You can get out there and run your mouth, but that's not going to mean anything. It's those who can put it on the table and deliver. Is those who get the prizes. That's just how it goes.
I was going to add too, Nagon. It was interesting too. You were talking about Michelle Obama, assuming VP pick. It was interesting today. Everyone was scratching their heads when Klobuchar came out and announced the charges of Hella Edison. They're like, what is this lady doing? Like, you know, it's in his hand now, and here you go tweeting the charges have been upgraded and these people are being charged.
Yeah, she's trying to get out front on this.
Oh yeah, she's trying. Like, yeah, they were saying pretty much her VP chances have kind of sunk with this whole thing in Minnesota, because that record is horrible as far as her when she was a prosecutor.
Right. She's the one who let this guy go when he was committing murder all the time.
Yeah. She's looking weak. But like I said, you know, the vetting process is going to be deep. But as I said, Michelle's not going to do it. I don't believe she is.
No, she would have to be a presidential candidate, not a vice presidential candidate.
Well, gentlemen, but people thinking she can bring a lot to the ticket, and the Republicans are terrified of this woman.
Yeah, but this guy, if he wins,
Trump is scared of her.
If this Biden wins, he's not going to last through his term.
Yeah.
And gentlemen,
we don't know. We don't know. I can't say.
Let me just get this thing in real quick. And what you're seeing with Klobuchar is exactly the reason why all these politicians are gonna accelerate to kind of defund a lot of the police stations and like declaw them and take their power away, because they don't want to end up like this chick, because they all have political aspirations where they want to be senators, they want to move up in the chain, and to see her career completely be destroyed by not prosecuting all these cops, no DA in the country is going to want to follow that. Like they're going to want to show that, you know, they're doing everything they can to like prosecute. So you're going to see a whole paradigm shift. Like everything that's like, it's not in a vacuum. Everybody's watching what's happening to her in Minnesota, and all other cities, all other municipalities, all the politicians are taking note, because all their jobs are on the line.
Yeah.
Can I just put in real quick on that, Mike? Or do you want to just move on to the next one?
Well, Vision has had his hand up for 20 minutes. So.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Vision.
I'm gonna change the conversation so you can continue with the flow, because my point has nothing to do with what you guys are talking about now. So you guys got that flow. I'll wait.
Oh, okay. Let's go to Complex, and then we'll go to Mr. G and close out.
Okay. All right. Oh, just real quick on that point. That who's that was just speaking? Who's the brother that was just speaking?
Mr. Dockel.
Okay, so I wanted to speak to that point here, because something actually came out in the paper in Minnesota. I think I read this about yesterday, where the police chief basically told all of his officers that they were going to be providing free warrior training, right?
Yeah, we talked about that.
What?
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah. Go
okay.
ahead. Yeah, mention that.
Yeah. So the whole point I wanted to make to that was that was in response to, that was the police union's response to the mayor, and I believe it was the governor, basically instituting like a passive defense policy, where they were like, look, y'all can't be doing all this and all that. And so the unions actually fired back. And this is what I wanted to illustrate. I think what we don't often see is that there's actually a power struggle with like politicians and like the military industrial complex. Okay, because the military industrial complex also extends down into municipal policing. Okay, mm-hmm. So they want to be able to institute as much controls, and they want to be able more money. the way they can funnel more money in that industry is by more aggressive policing. Okay, and what happens here is that you get politicians that get on the hook, and then they pass laws, and then the police departments basically take liberties because they look at what's been negotiated, that the police unions have negotiated. They know the extent to which they can do their policing, let's just say. And so when we run into instances like this, the only thing that the politicians oftentimes are left to do is to pay it lip service and talk about how, well, this is, something that we need to look at, the typical talking points. But the question becomes, how come nothing can ever actually be done about this? And it's because of the power of the police unions.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, let's go to Mr. G.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback on what the brother was just saying, but first let me say this. You guys also mentioned that Amy Klobuchar, right? She's a Democrat, right? So people like to find these issues, they like to come through and be like, oh, see, this is why Democrats are bad for us. See, the Democrats, yeah, you're right. Okay, you're right. You got a point. But let's be honest, right? These police unions, these police departments throughout the country, who you think is more likely to offer some radical change? What candidates, what side is going to be willing to go and campaign on some radical change for your ass? Huh?
Well, we keep saying the name of the game is
come on, bro.
If you vote and you come out, you put a lot of pressure on the system. You can make it respond. We did talk about the real issues with the military-industrial complex. I mentioned that before. Just like Complex you just mentioned, these guys are powerful, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to really be very strong, local in your local political arena. And of course, on your state and federal, but you're really going to have to come out and participate heavily in this system. You can help to turn a lot of this around, but you've got to be heavily involved. You got to really come out and push. And that's what they're counting on you not to do, is not to come out and not to get involved. That's how they get all stuff done.
Who you think Republicans are really going to push radical changes to go against police unions? Like that's
you don't rely on.
I don't care what the Republicans think. I care about if we get out, if you're able to get out, if we're able to get out and move against that, that can certainly happen. But you have to get out there politically and do it. That's what you have to do.
We do that all the time, and then we don't follow up.
Go ahead. I was going to say something, but go ahead.
No, I'm saying is we do that all the time. We don't follow up.
No, we don't. No, we don't do that all the time. See, that's the problem. We don't do that all the time.
We're not politically organized like that.
You see, we don't do that all the time. If we did that all the time, you wouldn't have these. You wouldn't have these problems.
Right, like your ward
at the level that you have right now. We don't do this.
Like your ward or your community doesn't have like a separate. Doesn't have separate policing statutes, say from like another ward or another section of the city. See, you got people who like will represent certain precincts, and in those precincts, guess what? The laws are slightly different, right?
Well, most cities and most municipalities that you run into, they're run under one union, and they're run under, and they're basically. Run over, but by one department, and it all depends on the various municipalities that that you're in. Yeah, one town might be a little different than another town, but that means each town you have to vote and you have to say what you say what you have to say.
But Nagon, that backs up what you're saying though, is that's where you have to become active on that level. That's what you're
that's what we're saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what we're saying. Yeah. I mean, and that's what's important. But why do you think the white folks have the police operate the way that they want? Because they're the ones, they're voting in their police chiefs. They're voting for their various, people on the or the various judgeships and so forth. They're involved in this, man. I live in a town, Scarsdale. You know, these guys are very, very, very well, well tied in. And folks have their people that they vote in. They have their police chiefs that they know that are going to get, how would I say, appointed or however, by the mayor or the town council, however that works, wherever you are. And these people know what's going on. They're very involved. That's the thing that black people have. Black people don't get involved. They complain when these guys get real ill. But at the end of the day, you do have the ability to interdict, interdict on a lot of this. You do have that ability. But when you have jokers out here talking about, you don't need to vote, don't vote, and all that, you see these morons talking this. They don't understand the game. They just don't understand what's really going on. And you have to be locally politically involved. And there's some black townships that are very involved in what's going on. Okay, Mike, go ahead, Mike. I'm sure you go ahead.
Yeah, well, he's gone now.
I was going to add too, Complex. You kind of called it on the earlier chat, or we've been talking about, the geopolitical ramifications of all this. Obviously with China, as well as more specifically on this chat, focusing on the AU, on the African Union response. So I know you talked about this was definitely an issue. You thought some other countries could sort of hang over the U.S.'s head. It looks like some of them are doing it. So.
Yeah, it's a strike against U.S. foreign policy as well. If most of the countries that are speaking out actually have had sanctions on them by the United States at one point, so they don't really have much to lose because they already getting their funding from China. But then that kind of coincides with the allegations that the WHO being partially in bed with China and things like that. Head of the WHO is actually an African. There's a lot that goes with that. But I just want to make sure we close out. But thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button if not already done so.
Hey, wait, Vision, I'm sorry, I didn't get my point across. Sorry.
Go ahead, Vision.
Are we done? Okay. Yeah, you're about to close the club and kick everybody out. So I just want to say this. My perspective is a little bit different. So that's why I kind of waited while you guys were kind of rocking.
Okay.
I'm going to make it quickly. In the 1960s, right, there's different dynamics to this. The U.S. population, the ADOS or black population was 12%. And I remember sometime in 2015, I decided to just kind of take a look again. And then it was like 14%. The numbers are off, but you guys get what I'm saying. So I sat there for a second. I said, how the hell does a population just grow by 2% while they're projecting, the Spanish population coming in, and by 2030 or 2050 they will surpass even the indigenous white population, and yet the black population has maintained itself at that number for such a long time. So of course you look, you say, okay, prison. A lot of men are going to prison. Makes sense. Wait. At the time I didn't know about abortion, right? So that's from Go to 11. I found out abortion was another dynamic. Then the black on black crime. I know, but a lot of things. But then now on a global perspective, right? There's a book called Crisis in Africa: Battleground of East and West, and this is when Russia was the second competing power. Now it's China. So the book was written in 1981, and the author put a number. I can't find a number, but I'll find it one day. And this is from 1981. He said, when you look at colonialism, you look at chattel slavery, you look at the civil wars, you look at disease like Ebola and AIDS and things like that, what it's done to all black nations in Central, South America, the islands, USA, the black population there, and then in Africa. The number is ridiculous. We are dying at an unbelievable rate for all kinds of reasons. You know what I mean? And so, like, I have a lot more to say, but I can save it for another time. But like, why the 2% growth in the last 40 years? Anybody?
Because the numbers are false.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the numbers are false. That's the only real succinct conclusion we can go to is that the numbers are just false.
Well, we'll get to see with the census coming soon. At least what they decide to report.
Yeah. But again, in a global spectrum, like, black people are just dying at a ridiculous rate. And like, are we ever going to wake up to this? What's going on? You know, like you go to Africa. I haven't been to Africa in a long time. We got a civil war in South Sudan where they're killing each other like no tomorrow. It's like, when is this going to end?
Because it's an easy. The thing is, at one point, teenage pregnancy in the Black community was rampant. So where did all those kids go? You understand what I'm saying? You can't have those sort of numbers reflected in that way and then be accused of also reproducing mass amounts of children, in these unwed, out of wedlock. It doesn't coincide with the story. The numbers don't coincide with the story itself and the accusations, right? So that's why, I don't believe in the numbers like that. They report what they want to report, and that's the extent.
So then you're telling me there's an agenda. There's a hidden agenda. There's no way around it. There's a hidden agenda by a certain group of people against another group. That's the only thing I can think of.
The only real way to handle this from a technology perspective is to put all the births on the blockchain. That will determine what the real numbers are.
Yeah, and the one thing, final thing I want to say, everybody, I'm the Nitty Fuller promoter here. He wrote something about establishment, the 4 phases, right? Establishment, maintenance, expansion, and refinement. And right now, man, we're in a refinement phase. After what you just said, and then how they did that gentleman there, how they killed him, that would be establishment. But then how we respond and how we always respond, that would be under refinement. And I would just recommend you guys read the book, and it's on page 23 where they explain it. But I don't want to read to you guys. So yeah, that's all. Thank you. I just want to get that in there.
All right, shalom.